Aye.
of the United States.
All right. Good evening, everyone. As you can see, we have a theme tonight with our sweaters. All right. First, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move. Yep.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All right. Can we have a roll call, please? Can we have all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next we need a motion to approve the Board of Education meeting minutes for December 3rd, 2020.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes.
Abstain.
And we have one abstention. All right, so next are patron comments, and we do have one patron comment. And I'm going to read this before the patron comment. So during patron comments, citizens may address the Board of Education concerning issues related to the school district. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that at the board's discretion, the board or superintendent may respond immediately to an issue raised during patron comments for clarification. However, our general practice is to respond to the comment at a later time via a phone call or a written message if a response is needed. So we have the podium here with microphones ready so both the board and the audience may hear the patron comments clearly. Board meeting proceedings are also recorded and posted on Rockwood's YouTube channel. This evening we have one patron comment, and we will have that 3-minute clock ready. So we welcome Carol Luthhauser, please.
I'm home again. I played for Eureka High Band on this stage here, and this was our gym. But anyway, I've been a part of the district since 3rd grade. So, and my boys all went here and my grandchildren. But anyway, I've been a school bus driver for the Rockwood School District since 1976. And I took like a 15-year hiatus and came back in 94. So I've been with the district itself for about 29 years. And I've been recommended to the board for termination because I failed to follow a policy that was instructed for us to walk our buses after our tier is done. And with COVID, I only have 5 high school students. And with COVID, one of them had been out for 2 weeks in quarantine, and he had come back to school that day. And I missed him getting on the bus at the high school. And when I delivered my regular 5 I had for the past 2 weeks, I headed home. I didn't walk my bus. And when I got all the way back to the garage, he appeared, and he's a sophomore. And he had been on his phone with his headphones on, like kids do, and rode all the way back to the garage with me. 8 miles it was, all the way from Highway 100 through Fox Creek, up Highway 44, and then to the garage. And my boss said that he would recommend me for termination this evening. And I came up just to plead the case that it was a mistake, and I did it. I didn't do it on purpose, but I did it. And to plead maybe for you to show some mercy for my job. I'm a widow, and I need the job. So, and like I said, I've drove hundreds of thousands of miles for the district. I used to drive trips out of state. And anyway, just one mistake seems like a little harsh for my termination, and I just wanted to come up and speak to you people today. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. And next we have superintendent board comments. So we'll start with our superintendent, Dr. Mark Miles.
Mrs. Mondel, the first item this evening
is that earlier this evening, the board approved Ms. Mary LePack as the new Rockwood Executive Director of Communications. Currently, Ms. LePack is the Chief Communications Officer for the Wentzville School District, a position she's held since 2014. In this role, she's responsible for the district's internal and external communication, including website and social media content. She began her work in Wentzville as the Community Relations Specialist in 2009, and recently she served as the Eastern Region Director of the Missouri School Public Relations Association. February 1st will be her first day in Rockwood, and we look forward to welcoming Ms. LePack to our Rockwood school community. It's obvious she has a heart for children, and she understands the need for open, honest, and ongoing communication with all members of our school community. She's earned a bachelor's degree in journalism from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York, and she replaces Mr. Alex Fees, who resigned from the position in September of 2020. Normally, Mary would be with us this evening, but she has her own board meeting in Wentzville this evening. So we'll have some time probably very soon for Mary to meet the board and so many members of our Rockwood community. So we welcome Mary to our team. We are so excited to have her. Continuing my comments this evening, the work of Rockwood Summit High School sophomore Max Pieski adorns this year's Rockwood School District Holiday e-card. Talented K-12 artists from around the district submitted entries into this year's contest to provide the artwork for our annual holiday card to the community. Max's design depicts a serene winter scene, complete with a snow-covered pine tree and snowman, snowwoman sporting a top hat and scarf, and as befits our Rockwood Safe Together practices, the snowman, snowwoman is also correctly wearing a mask over his/her mouth and carrot nose. Thank you to all of our talented students who participated in this year's contest, and congratulations to Max. You can see more of our students' designs on our website, rsdmo.org. We've also selected 6 additional pieces of student artwork to be added as e-card options on our Thankful in Rockwood staff appreciation webpage. So check those out if you have the opportunity. Since the return to in-person learning at the end of September, the classrooms and hallways at our Rockwood Early Childhood Centers have been humming. Dr. Suzanne Fossage, director of our early childhood programs, says that our students are responding wonderfully to our play-based curriculum while still being conscientious about following our health and safety strategies. The staff members, in turn, cherish their daily interactions with our students and are learning from their resilience. For more information about the variety of services Rockwood Early Childhood provides for our families and youngest learners, please visit rsdmo.org/earlychildhood. Rockwood board members, staff members, parents, and middle and high school students are in the midst of participating in a Rockwood One Read of the book Stamped: Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. So we are so thankful for the number of individuals who have expressed interest in this study. The One Read, presented by our Education, Equity, and Diversity, Social Studies, and Library and Media departments, is designed to bring people together through the shared experience of reading a common book. Members of the Rockwood community are encouraged to read the book and discuss the themes it raises with others as they read. In February, we plan to hold a panel discussion on Stamped. Thank you to everyone who is taking part in this valuable communal learning experience. Next, Fairway Elementary Principal Dr. Lorinda Cry was recently named the St. Louis Suburban Elementary Principal Association Distinguished Principal for 2021. Lorinda was honored by the organization's regional president, Dr. Paul Godwin, the principal at Green Pines Elementary. Rockwood administrators and Fairway students and staff surprised her during that announcement. Lorinda truly embodies the distinguished principal criteria, which include outstanding contributions to her community and the education profession, as well as leading programs that meet the academic and social needs of all students. Congratulations, Lorinda, on this well-deserved honor. And as we head into the holiday season, I'd like to share a note of hope and inspiration. Our Rockwood teachers and staff members approach each day with care, compassion, and dedication, working hard on behalf of our students and families. I gain a great deal of encouragement, even in the face of this ongoing pandemic, from watching our Rockwood staff members work each and every day, taking care of our nearly 21,000 students before, during, and after school. So let's take a look.
In a world that is ever changing, people have many different views and perspectives in this time of COVID-19. Wouldn't it be nice to have some hope and inspiration? Let me tell you about some people here in Rockwood. I know I am encouraged by them every single day. We have so many Rockwood teachers and staff who are amazing and resilient. Every day we work, determined to do our best with care, compassion, and dedication. We start the day ready to bring our students to school as safely as possible. We serve them breakfast and provide healthy food throughout the day. We keep them safe and secure, protected inside our schools and out. We have teachers who are doing their best for our children, our students in the classroom and with those learning at home. These are hard times. Our counselors and school social workers support our social, emotional, and mental health. Our teachers and coaches look after the physical health of our students, along with our school nurses, so students are ready to learn and grow. We care for students before school and after school, every school day. During the day, we wear masks, wash our hands, and maintain our distance as much as possible. We also clean and sanitize our schools and classrooms so we can be ready for our children. Our leaders take each day carefully, always watching and finding ways to make our schools better. We care for our little ones, our youngest learners just starting their Rockwood education. We care for them as they approach graduation day, when they are ready to take on the world. And we care for them every day in between. These are tough times. I've seen the tears on a challenging day. I've seen the smiles and laughter when a child brightens that day. All I know is that our Rockwood teachers and staff members work hard every day on behalf of our students and families. We will not give up, and we will not give in. Though we are human, and we all grow weary at times in the face of this pandemic. Our Rockwood mission states that we do whatever it takes to ensure all students realize their potential. Stay strong, Rockwood. Stay safe and stay healthy. We know our school community stands with us as we do whatever it takes for all our Rockwood students.
Well done.
Well, thanks to our communications department for putting that video together, and we'll be sharing that with our larger community within the next few days. Just a couple of other announcements. I'm going to keep my eye on Mr. Paul Northington this evening as he is expecting his 7th grandchild. And so at any time during the board meeting, if you want to provide any updates, but if we hear some yelling and whooping over there, we know it'll be Paul because I know he's very excited, and we're excited for Mr. Paul Northington, our Chief Financial Officer. And as this is our final board meeting prior to the holiday break, just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season. It's been a unique year, and 2021 promises to be unique and even better than 2020. I can safely say that. That is all I have this evening.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Miles. Any board comments?
I do. I want to thank our communications department. The thank you notes, the Rockwood thank you, and the holiday greetings are just outstanding. I know I've sent some, I've received some, and it's just such a thoughtful thing to do. So thanks for putting that together for us.
I'd like to thank Dr. Miles for every week we get emails from him and pictures of sporting events that he's attended. And I really appreciate that. And that's sort of a lead in to my next comment. Sort of being an alumni of the United States Army, I just wanted you to know they defeated the bad old Navy 12-0 last week. Has nothing to do with this, but I thought I'd throw it in. Keep going, Army.
All right. We love you, Dr. Kinder. It's okay.
I'd like to say happy holidays to the entire Rockwood community and thank them for their patience and grace during this very interesting school year.
I'll give a quick shout out on behalf of Rockwood Gives Back to so many people that are contributing to our Heartful Giving campaign right now. And also to some people who have made some awesome donations through the Eureka Police Department in the community. Many items were dropped off today at Rockwood Gives Back. We have people just making donations all the time. This morning, a generous person donated a dryer and we picked it up and immediately delivered it to the home of someone in our Rockwood community that needed a dryer for their family. And so we're happy to do that and happy that we have such a giving community that supports one another. So thank you all.
Very good. All right, moving along. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, moving on to the agenda items. I need a motion to accept the 2019-20 audit report, post-audit report, and secretary of the board report as presented.
Move.
We have a motion and a second. So Dan Steinberg is coming up, and I have Paul Northington on here and Brian Wirtz from KEB. Welcome, Brian. Go ahead, Dan.
We have wrapped up our audit of the 2019-20 school year. We have the results for you tonight. Our audit team from Kerber and Breckle spent 2 weeks with us in October, reviewing our financial records as well as compliance with federal and state programs. Child nutrition was part of the federal compliance, and then they also review state compliance for transportation as well as attendance. So I just wanted to send my appreciation for their time. Usually they did their audit work in about 2 weeks when normal time frame is about 4 weeks. So we were able to kind of shrink it into that time frame, complete the audit, and want to introduce Brian Wirtz, partner with Kerber Breckle, to share the results with you.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening. As Dan stated, we're basically here to present the comprehensive financial report of the district. It's a 150-page report, something like that. It goes to 156, I think, but there's about 30 pages of Roman numerals in there. So there's a lot of information in there. Just to point out a couple things. In the introductory section, there's 2 certificates of excellence in financial reporting, one issued by the Government Finance Officers Association and another one issued by the Association of School Business Officials. The district should be very proud of that. So basically what happens is this report is submitted to those 2 entities and they review the report for content and disclosures and make sure that it meets the criteria to issue these certificates of excellence in financial reporting. So that's an awesome thing that's in this report. Obviously our independent audit report is in here. There's actually 4 opinions. There's an opinion on the financial statements themselves, 2 opinions as it relates to federal programs. So federal programs and then major programs within the federal programs, and then state compliance. So there's 4 opinions in there. The government-wide financial statements, which are prepared on the full accrual basis of accounting, which is much like a for-profit entity. And then the fund financial statements that are prepared on the modified accrual basis of accounting with a reconciliation between the 2. Also, then there's pages and pages of footnotes and required supplemental information and statistical information. So there's a lot of stuff in here. The one thing I think I did miss was the MD&A, which is the management's discussion and analysis, and that's an important and integral part of these financial statements. It's prepared by management. It's unaudited because there's some financial information in there, but it's mostly narrative in nature, and we can't give an opinion on that. But it's basically their views of what happened last year and what they expect to happen in the future for the district. So it's an integral part of those financial statements as well. I think, okay, good. So when we do an audit, we like to talk about what each other's responsibility is. And in the audit opinion, if you looked at it, there's like an introductory paragraph that basically says we performed this audit. And then it goes into what's management's responsibilities when it comes to an audit. And it's management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements in accordance with GAAP. And GAAP for these financial statements is the accrual basis of accounting for the government-wide financial statements and the modified accrual basis for the fund financial statements. The other thing that I didn't list here that is also important is it's management's responsibility to maintain an internal control structure so that there's not a material misstatement in the financial statements that would go undetected. So that's management's responsibility. You can't rely on us to come in and do an audit and find an error or misstatement in the financial statements. If that were to occur, we'd no longer be independent and we couldn't prepare the audit. So we can't be a part of the internal control structure of the district. Our responsibility then is to express an opinion on the fair presentation of the financial statements. And if you look at the opinion, it says we're given limited assurance because we can't give absolute assurance because we don't test 100% of the transactions, but we do have to test enough transactions to bring the risk down to a very low level that a misstatement would occur and go undetected. When we do an audit, we do review the internal controls of the district. We may test internal controls if we decide that that's what we need to do, but we do not give an opinion on the internal controls of the district. And I'll talk about if there's weaknesses in a minute. But giving an opinion on the internal controls is outside the scope of an audit as well. The last thing that is in the planning stages is fraud. So we have conversations with district personnel, employees about if they have any knowledge of fraud. If they did, how would they report it? So if anything comes from those conversations, we'd be required to extend our audit procedures to alleviate those concerns. Or if during our audit procedures, we come across some transactions or something that we feel could be fraud, we're required again to extend our audit procedures. But we're not required to develop audit procedures to find fraud. So that's outside the scope of an audit, and I think that's important. We do perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and uniform guidance, which is the guidance related to federal programs. On the opinion on the audit of the financial statements, we give an unmodified opinion, which basically is the best opinion you can get that states, based on our audit procedures, we feel that the financial statements are not materially misstated. Internal control over financial reporting and compliance with laws and regulations and grants. If we noted any material weaknesses or instances of non-compliance, we'd be required to report those to you in writing, get management's response. Happy to report we didn't have either this year. In testing the federal programs, we're required to test a percentage of the total federal program expenditures and also test every major program once every 3 years. This year, we tested the Title II program and the Child Nutrition Cluster. Again, we gave an unmodified opinion on the compliance with those major programs, and we didn't have any material weaknesses or any findings that would be required to be disclosed under the uniform guidance. State compliance, that's the last opinion we give, and that's related to budgetary and disbursement procedures, attendance and transportation records. That part of our audit is performed in accordance with attestation standards established by the AICPA. Again, we gave an unmodified opinion. Other communications that we're required to discuss with you, significant accounting policies. So the significant accounting policies used to prepare the financial statements are note 1 to the financial statements. Again, we discussed being the accrual basis for the government-wide financial statements and the modified accrual for the fund financial statements. There were no changes in accounting policies from year to year, so everything is consistently applied as it was in the prior year. Significant estimates in the financial statements, we're required to disclose those to you because when these estimates become reality, they could be significantly materially different than what these estimates are. The most significant ones are the net pension liability and the OPEB, which is other post-employment benefit obligations. And those estimates are based on actuarial information. So that information is given to actuaries and they come up with the liabilities. The pension liability is our proportionate share of the retirement obligation. So every district in Missouri is a part of this, and then it's just our proportionate share of that, or the district's proportionate share of that. There were no transactions that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus. The financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear, other than probably the pension ones, because those are 20 pages a piece or something. It's just, there's an ungodly amount of information on that. We encountered no difficulties in performing our audit and had no disagreements with management. If as a part of our audit, if we found a misstatement in the financial statements that we felt like needed to be adjusted, we'd be required to disclose that to you. We didn't have any misstatements noted as a part of our financial statement audit. We did obtain a representation letter from management dated December the 11th, which is also the date of all of our opinions. That date is important because any subsequent events that happen between June 30th and December the 11th, before we issue the financial statements, we're required to do subsequent procedures and determine that there hasn't been any additional contingencies or subsequent events that might require us to go back and make a disclosure or an adjustment to the financial statements before they're released. Anything after that date, we're not required to review. The letter is basically from management that states to us the financial statements, in their opinion, are complete and accurate, and they gave us all the information that we asked for. They made us aware of any commitments or contingent liabilities and answered our questions to the best of their ability. If management had any consultations with any other independent accountants during the year, we'd also be required to disclose that to you, which to our knowledge, there were not. As Dan said, we got through this very well this year, so we appreciate Paul and Dan and the rest of the district staff. They let us come out, it's about 50-50 whether we're doing audits in-house or through portals and that sort of thing. Obviously, we can be way more efficient if we can come out and do these things, and so we appreciate them allowing us to do that. And they, as usual, do a great job, as noted in the the certificates of excellence in financial reporting. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
A couple of times you mentioned in there unmodified opinion. What's the difference between an unmodified opinion and a modified opinion? Help me understand that.
Yeah, so an unmodified opinion is basically that based on our audit, there's no modifications that need to be made to the opinion. A modification might be that there's a departure from GAAP, or that there's something wrong with the financial statements that we now have to modify our opinion accordingly.
Modified is good then.
That's the best opinion that you can get.
Okay.
Honestly, yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good. Everybody stay safe. Happy
All right.
holidays.
Thanks. See you next year. All right. Next up, third quarter learning structures. Dr. Lisa Counts.
We need to take a vote on that.
Okay. The motion is to accept the 2019-20 audit report, post the audit report, and secretary of the board report as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Mrs. Sadowski, once again. Now, third quarter learning structures, Dr. Lisa Counts and Dr. Dave Cobb. Welcome.
Evening. This is just an update to inform the board about the discussions that have taken place over the past, well, they actually have taken place since March, but how we can continue to ensure that our learning is one that is top, like it's used to, like we've always been in Rockwood. So we spent the majority of second quarter discussing how we can improve the model to help all students that are both in person and online. So we established the rapid response teams. We got our Rockwood Learning Council together. We surveyed our teachers, and as you know, we came to the conclusion that in third quarter we would have those 5 Fridays that we would use for teachers and students to assist with the difficulty in the teaching of both in-person and online students. It's tremendously difficult for our teachers to do that, and they've done a phenomenal job this year. And as we continue to brainstorm ways to perfect what we're doing, this model truly was one that we considered to be the right one. I will tell you, just from the feedback since we announced that model has been very positive. I've been walking in buildings and talking to teachers, and we've got a lot of notes of thank yous for coming to that conclusion. I've talked to quite a few parents as well, and we've also got a very understanding parent community. So I will tell you that I think that we landed in the right spot. A virtual academy is something that we kept hearing over and over again. And as we really dove deep into the virtual academy model, what we discovered was every time we thought we fixed something, we felt like that we caused more concern in other areas. And as our administrators looked at that and our teachers looked at that, we realized that that model simply wasn't one that would be best for the overall community. So we landed with these 5 days, which I think is exactly where we needed to land. So that's just our update for third quarter. For elementary, I can tell you it's I think it's been met with some really good gratitude. So secondary is very similar, but a little different.
So we went through the similar process, Rockwood Learning Council, and then we broke up into subcommittees looking at truly our biggest challenge is the master schedule. Certainly at high school, that's about as complex as it gets. We have over 300 course offerings. So to build a system in the middle of a school year is really, really challenging. And I think, as Dave said, we started planning last March. What will this school year look like? We've been talking about this since March 13th of last year. And yeah, initially it was, hey, let's just make some virtual sections, and maybe we could even have a virtual academy, and we could just have some virtual teachers and some virtual sections, and then that would support our at-home learners in their setting, and then we'll keep our in-person learners here. And the complications were just very daunting. And what we came to the conclusion of, and that was really through the work of our Rockwood Learning Council of over 100 people, I think, participate in that at our secondary level, was there were more hurdles and more potential maybe challenges. I don't want to say pros and cons, but it was things that would be detrimental to students. For example, you think about the course offerings and students that are taking maybe year-long courses. And if we start pulling away sections so that we can dedicate a staff member to a virtual section, well, then we have to collapse a section of in-person. And so when we collapse that section, those class sizes go up. Or if that teacher's the only teacher teaching that, then that goes away. And so we knew we couldn't not offer things that students had already started that coursework. That was just one example. So it just, as Dave said, just when we thought we found a way to maybe do this intermittently, then there were just 2 or 3 more challenges that, and when I say challenges, it was, we could do those things, but if we had any students that it was going to be detrimental to their schedule, we would increase class sizes, which in this environment certainly wouldn't be popular with students and staff members and parents. And we faced really the exact same challenges. Just looks a little different, but and you guys are aware of this, the percentages, the disparities of online and in-person percentages at our schools across the district is just so varied. And so much so that what we might be able to provide at one school with little disruption was almost totally impossible at another school. And so it just became really challenging to try and meet the needs of all learners by pulling away virtual sections. So it's certainly part of our conversation. In fact, I know several of us, Dr. Willott, Dr. Miles, Dr. Rebele, several of us are meeting tomorrow talking about what does virtual learning look like in the future. But certainly building that with an already existing master schedule in place was pretty daunting, and again would probably be detrimental to many students because we would have to peel sections away in order to create these virtual sections. So we felt like, and what we heard time and again from our teachers and from parents with running a concurrent model. I mean, we're asking our teachers to teach 2 totally different models right now. It's such an amazing task that they're pulling off. And so our teachers have asked for more time with their virtual students. They want to provide more support for the online learners. They want more time. They need more time for that preparation. They've never done this before. We really just put them in at the steering wheel and, tried to support them the best we can, but they need time to do more for their learners. So while it's not always popular and easy to ask our community to, give us 5 days for this virtual learning, we really believe it's going to be a benefit for our teachers that they can have that ongoing time with those at-home learners. They can build in time for that, as well as then build in time for them personally to stay ahead of the curve on this concurrent model. And again, this is something they've never done before, and we're asking them to keep up at this pace. And we know it's wearing on people, and we want our teachers to be at their very best, so they're at their best for their students. So we believe this was a way to better support that need of time, because that was the thing that we heard most from teachers and parents of those at-home learners. Did that cover everything? We can answer any questions you guys might have.
I do. So clarify what these 5 days is going to look like.
So they're going to look a little different at each of the 3 levels, but similar. Middle school and high school, we have a schedule, so students will report to their Zooms. So they will report to each of their classes. They'll see each of their teachers in a condensed time frame. So they will have class on that day. It will just be virtual. And then the teachers will have time for office hours, which students can, some of it will be scheduled or I know middle schools are thinking about breaking it up where the morning session is by invite only. So when we need to meet with specific students, they can schedule specific students, and then maybe the afternoon session would be like open tutoring hours. But then there's definitely plan and preparation time built in for teachers as well.
Was my concern if they're teaching virtually that they're going to, because you referred that they would have some time to work, but if they're teaching virtually all day, where's that going to be built in for them?
It's not all day. It's a condensed
Okay.
schedule. So I think middle school has 45-minute Zooms, and I think high school has 30-minute Zooms. So, and it's just 4 classes.
Dr. Cobb, what will that look like at the elementary?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we met this week, talked to principals and met with curriculum as well. So we'll have a 30-minute Zoom in the morning. They'll also have specialists. And with the help of the curriculum department and our curriculum leads, they are going to work with our teachers to help prepare for those. So, because what we didn't want to do as we provide time for teachers for planning, we didn't want to create another obstacle by having a virtual day. Well, now they have to have more time for the virtual day. So we realized that complexity, and we've been working pretty hard on making sure that schedule fits for teachers. And we've actually had a school reach out today to our curriculum folks, and they're going over there to help the teachers with what that plan looks like. So I think for the teachers, it should be seamless, but if for some reason it's not, the help is on the way, and we've told them that. And so we discussed that this week. So I think it's going to be a day where teachers will be able to connect with their students, but also have the time necessary to be an effective teacher for both platforms.
The question I have then regarding, we have so many students who are going in and out of quarantine, in and out of the virtual. So how are we handling all those different scenarios for our teachers and students?
Well, that is an issue that we have going on right now, and we're addressing that we'll talk about for third quarter. But right now, what we're doing is teachers are handling those quarantines. Most teachers are handling those quarantines individually on their own. And so if you have a classroom and you have a student that has to quarantine, most of the time that teacher is taking that student and working with that student. There are times where that student could at a school go to an online teacher depending on the situation. So in some of our schools, you might have an online teacher dedicated in that grade level, and if a child might be out for 24 days, it might make sense with that PLC and those teachers to pull that child to go to the online teacher. It just depends on that PLC, and we've let that be a site-based decision. But I will say the majority of our teachers have found it most effective to keep their own students.
It's similar at the high school. We don't have any really online sections at all. So all classroom teachers are managing And again, secondary learners, middle school and high school are a little more independent, so it's a little easier for them to manage quarantine. But yes, so they will Zoom in with their teacher during quarantine.
I got, so this is more for scheduling purposes, like what's the school day going to look like? Are we going to abandon the first quarter, second quarter that we did this year where they only took half the classes first quarter, half the classes second?
Right, yeah.
So they're going to go full, are they going to go full back to what it would be if we didn't do that going third quarter?
We're going back to a semester system.
Okay. That's on all levels.
At high school, middle school is going to stay with quarters.
Okay.
Okay. Lisa and Dave, I thought I understood this. Now I'm a little more confused than normal. Let me go through this. Elementary. So you're a teacher in the elementary. Will you be teaching virtual and class at the same time? Okay.
All three levels.
Okay.
Concurrent model. All three levels will do concurrent model.
Okay. Where does the extra virtual teacher come in then? Or is there such? Okay.
There is no virtual
And it's the
teacher.
same curriculum and everything.
Correct.
So if I'm a second grade teacher and they have 17 kids in class and 2 of them are going virtual, they'll be virtual and everybody else will be, and that's a regular day like it normally is in a regular school year.
Correct.
Middle school, you say they're going with a block, I mean a block, but a split day, split. Third quarter and fourth quarter. Third quarter is maybe 1, 3, 5, and 7, and then 2, 4, 6.
Well, they have 8 classes at the middle school.
And they're also going to teach virtual and in school.
Concurrent at the same time. So they will, again, the same exact example. If they have 17 students in person and 2 are at-home learners, the 2 at-home learners are Zooming in to their first period.
To their class. Okay, and at high school, it's the same way? But they're going back to the regular 7-period day.
But they will do a rolling block. We're going to get in the weeds here in a minute if we start going down the schedule, but they'll do a 4x4 basically. So they'll do
4 one day and 4 the next. They
seventh hour will be standard. They only have 7 classes.
What time will the high school get out? The regular time?
They're back to the 3:18.
Okay. I had another question. I lost it. Anybody else have a question? What do you think?
So how does lunch look like at the high school level? Because right now we're letting kids go home and, we're having the kids go home, not letting the kids go home, but right. So how will that look? What are the plans for lunch?
Same as we're doing at all of our other schools. Our middle schools have mastered this. They have social distanced. We have, I think 5 lunch shifts at the high school. So we've expanded, like in our middle schools, lunch is a 3-hour block of the day. That they've expanded lunch to 3 hours. So I think there's either 4 or 5 lunch shifts at the high school now. So they've really spread out or they've minimized the number of kids in each lunch shift. So we had a plan actually for lunches before we went all virtual. So we, very similar to the middle schools, social distancing, reduced numbers of kids in each lunch shift, assigned seating. I think all 4 of the high schools have talked about actually assigning seats by department. So, if you have English during, your lunch periods during your English class, then the English kids sit in that section so they can really cross-reference kids for contact tracing. So they've got a lot, and there's a lot of those strategies that they're implementing.
Just so people understand, you mentioned a 3-hour block. That doesn't mean a student has 3 hours.
No, the student doesn't eat for 3 hours.
Yeah. What is it about the same as it's been in the past? About the same length of time?
No, it's much longer.
Police lunch is.
No. The student lunch is the same amount of time, but because they have 6 lunch shifts in the middle school.
But instead of taking 2 hours, it may take 3 or.
It takes 3, right? To serve all the students.
What kind of feedback have you had recently from the teachers? Because at one time, some of the feedback from the teachers was that they're really struggling with doing virtual and in class at the same time. Are they more comfortable with it now since it's the same platform?
Yeah, I think they are more comfortable. I will be totally honest. I don't think anyone feels like they've mastered it. It's really, really challenging. Just like Dave said, when I'm out, visiting buildings and talking with teachers, I ask some of those hard questions. I want to hear that critical feedback, like what is the hardest part? And I do think many are getting into a routine, and they're figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and how to better access some of the technology. So I do think they are getting into more of a routine. It's certainly not ideal. We know that. This is nothing that's happened during this time has been ideal, or would we have chosen this path in a regular time in our lives. But I do think they're feeling a little more comfortable, but I certainly understand and respect that this is not anyone's first choice, and it's incredibly, incredibly hard. They're working harder they worked hard before, and that's magnified.
This all on one platform. It's all on Zoom. It's not like one class is on Zoom and the other one's on Microsoft.
Right. No, it's all
on
Zoom.
Zoom.
Mhm.
And each of the 3 levels is 4 days a week, with the 5th day being what? Or did I miss that?
So there are 5 virtual days built into the third quarter.
Okay. So there could be some weeks it'll be 5 days, and it could be some weeks it'll be, or most weeks it'll be 4, because maybe the other day would be a vacation day, or what do you call it?
There's some holidays and some work days built in there. So we looked at the district calendar as well to try and make it make sense that we weren't, going to school a day and off a day and back a day. And, so we really tried to be strategic about where we place those virtual days.
So that 5th day is a virtual day. What is the teacher doing during that 5th day?
The teacher will Zoom with their students. That's what Dave and I were talking about when Tammy asked. So at the middle school and high school, they will see each of their teachers for a condensed class period. They all will Zoom in with the teacher, and then the teacher will have office hours with students, plan and preparation time.
At the elementary?
Yes. Mhm.
Same thing?
Yeah.
Good.
Into my question, Keith, thank you. So if I am a Zoom student, if I'm learning through the Zoom process, on those 5 days, it's going to look different than my normal virtual experience.
At-home learner.
If I'm an at-home learner. So I think that's something it will be important to communicate to our families.
Is that going to look different?
Right now, an at-home learner would have, like right now, 5 days, their schedule stays the same. An at-home learner in third quarter, that virtual Friday will be a condensed Zoom rather than their normal schedule.
Oh, okay. But they'll still got it.
Right.
There are no elementary schools, or will be no elementary schools that have a dedicated virtual teacher?
There still will be. So the best way I can explain it is really nothing changes.
Okay.
That's the best way to explain it. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is the 5 virtual days, and those days are going to be to help our teachers with both platforms with the time to prepare what they need. That makes sense.
Communication is going to be critical.
I think that you're exactly right. Communication has always been the biggest challenge, I think, for everything that we've done with COVID. When we communicated out, I kind of noticed that I thought we missed a step. So we pulled the principals together. We all had a staff meeting the exact same day with the same PowerPoint, because we have to make sure that we get the communication right, because it's very complicated and it's hard to understand unless you can actually talk about it. So when you read about it, or you see a video about it, or you read a website, it's not the same as having a conversation. So we're doing as many conversations as we can so we can help people understand.
About snow days? Does that go all virtual when we have a snow day, or is it a snow day?
So for snow days for kindergarten through 8th grade, it will be a snow day because of the minimum number of hours required by the state. Any snow day for high school students will convert to that will be a virtual day for them, so that we can meet the minimum number of hours.
Okay, so elementary, no school.
Elementary would be playing in the snow that day.
Okay. High school?
High school would be engaged in a virtual day of learning.
What about middle school?
They would be playing in the snow as well.
do the teachers come in on those virtual snow days, or do they do virtual at home on
They
snow
would,
day?
we want to take care of them as well, so they would be at home as well.
About Monday and Tuesday of next week, is that teachers in the building or outside the building, or their choice?
Their choice. They have the discretion.
They go either way.
They can go either way. Yeah, I would commend Dave and Lisa and Shelley and Katie and the entire team, the Rockwood Learning Council. This is an overwhelming endeavor. These are structures and processes that have never been done before. And the creativity, it's almost many times one solution creates two additional challenges or problems. You know, throughout this entire process, I've thought this has required a community partnership, a partnership between us as a district and our parents. It is difficult, and one decision does not satisfy the needs of everyone. We're trying to create balance for all of our stakeholders. We're trying to create balance for our teachers so that they are at their very best as well. So along this process, we've had to make adjustments, and we haven't made any definite decisions for fourth quarter yet. We're anxious to see how the evolution of the vaccine impacts processes and our community health indicators that we continue to watch. As we examine our internal health indicators, we are doing quite well. Without a doubt, we would love to have 0 cases and 0 quarantines, but that's unrealistic. But our numbers are trending very, very favorably. And we're very proud of having the opportunity to have our kids in school. There are several children throughout the United States and throughout the metro area that have not set foot in a school this entire year. I think all school districts around the country are, as we look to the future, even 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road, we're going to have to create, through our next steps, recovery processes, how we recover some of this time and learning. But, you know, I see our students working hard. I'm so proud of our staff members. They are working so hard through this challenging time.
They're working very.
Lisa, real quick again. So to understand the third quarter scheduling for the high school, it's going to be basically, let's say, 4 classes Monday, Wednesday, 3 classes Tuesday, Thursday, or is it all 7 or 6 or whatever they are?
It's 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 2, 4, 6, 7. So 7 will be a shorter block of time. It'll meet every day.
So in other words, it's kind of like a hybrid block.
Correct.
And so, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mhm.
The reason behind the high schoolers attending on snow days is to make up time.
So that we meet the minimum number of hours, 1,044 hours. Without that, and our expert Dan Steinbrugge is here, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but if we simply declared those snow days and did not have them in attendance, we would not meet the minimum number of hours required by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
They're going home at 1:30.
Correct.
What do you do on the snow day if a senior high student calls in and says, it's snowing, I'm not coming to school?
Would we just be considered an absence?
An absence,
I
okay.
believe so. I think that's how we would operate. That's an
Okay.
They
absence.
don't join the
being there.
Zoom. They're just marked
I mean,
absent.
if they go virtual, could they be counted as being there?
Well, they'd be expected
No-
to go virtual that
No
day.
one's coming in on the snow day. The building is closed. They're going
okay.
to,
If school's closed, K through 8, they can just play or anything, enjoy it. High school, they'll go virtual on a snow day.
That's correct.
I missed that piece again.
Sorry.
Thinking ahead to better days. I know typically when you get back from winter break, you start planning the next school year. So in this case, it'd be the 21-22 school year. How are you guys going to do that this year? Is that just
we're doing it. We're planning enrollment. We're looking at course catalogs. The February 5th, we start student enrollment for classes. So we're very optimistic, but we have a lot of plan B, C, D, E, just like we've done since last March. So yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, that's for sure.
You doing college nights virtual, or are those going to be in person for juniors and seniors?
I don't think I know the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
In all
We'll follow up with
honesty.
you on that question.
Huh?
We'll
I will
follow up with
definitely
you on
follow
that
up with
question.
Dr. Kinder.
Sorry,
I'm
what?
assuming probably virtual. Almost all large group activities have become virtual.
Okay.
I have a quick comment and a couple questions. Quick comment is just, an appreciation for all of you and the hard work you've done, and obviously the adjustments and pivoting throughout. I just sit here and it's almost, I'm sure, tongue in cheek for our high school principals to reflect on their last few years of planning and the challenge of a lunch shift, and to have worked that out in our schools for flex time and then rework it now, over the course of this crazy year. That's a lot of work. And so I've seen on the walls of our high schools in the past how they work that out. And it's just, I appreciate all the work that everybody's been doing. You mentioned earlier about doing a staff survey. Is that something that went out to all staff for input, or, okay. Do we, and I know staff is well represented on RLC and obviously, and then on the rapid response teams and things of that nature. Do we have any students or parents on any of those groups who are providing any feedback? Have we surveyed students just to get their input on any of these things? I was just curious.
So I'll let Dave talk about his. They've been doing it a little more frequently, but we at the middle school and high school started mimicking what the elementary did, the heartbeat survey. And so that's where we're seeking student feedback on, it's things like how well they're connected to their classmates, being able to engage with the platform in which they're in. And they check, I'm an in-person learner or I'm an at-home learner. So yeah, we have done that as kind of a pulse point. It's like a 5 or 6 question survey of students. I think you all have done it a few times actually. So,
yeah. But they're not on any of the committees or giving any like detailed scheduling feedback or anything like that?
No, because for us,
Yeah.
we're truly looking at the master schedule.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how they would be able to offer feedback on that.
Okay. I was just curious.
Last day of the first semester is January 19th?
First day of second semester.
January 9th.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, you were close.
Is there any discussion about going back to the calendar? The old calendar?
That would take some legislative action. There's been some discussion, yes, but no major action yet. But our eyes and ears are open for that. We would certainly appreciate any flexibility the legislature would provide us.
You've seen no indication that they're going to do anything like that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay,
Good job. Excellent.
thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. Both of you, and I don't think you're going very far away, are you? Okay. Next, I need a motion to approve Rockwood Summer Academy Report and Financial Analysis for 2021.
Move.
Motion is second. Oh, Dr. Dave Cobb is here.
Second.
Oh, motion is second. And Lisa Counts. Oh, Shelley Willett. All right. Welcome.
Favorite thing to talk about in December, this summer academy. It is that time of year to talk about Summer Academy, present this to the board so we can get moving, because believe it or not, we start our hiring process very soon, so we can make sure that we've got a quality summer program for all of our students in Rockwood. I left some of these slides up here only because I wanted to make sure that you had a visual of what we typically do as we compare last summer to what we're coming up to this summer. Last summer, we had a great idea in December, and in March, we couldn't use that idea. So all of our students were virtual over the summer. All 19 schools, elementary schools, 6 middle schools, 4 high schools. Springfield Launch was our provider for our summer school sites. So in elementary school, they did the Your National Park Adventure and the Olympics, and it was an enrichment which was actually one of the first times in a while for our elementary students. And we had we had good attendance. Middle school was remediation in ELA and math. They had 4 enrichment classes. High school credit recovery. We had almost 2,000 elementary students, about 630 middle school students, and about 1,300 high school students. As far as what we typically do, we had community education. These were the dates that they had. If I remember right, Adventure Club didn't start till June 15th. Adventure Club was one of the first groups of students that came back to our schools with masks, social distance, washing their hands on June 15th. It was actually, I remember the day because it was since March we've not been in school, and we wanted to see, and they did an excellent job, and we used them as a model as we continued forward. Early childhood also was planned for June 3rd to July 19th. So for 2021, we do have the dates set. We will have 4 weeks from June 7th to July 2nd. That will be in person. And then we will have July 12th through August 6th will be online for elementary schools, to middle schools, to high schools as normal. The difference that we'll have for elementary school is from the June 7th to July 2nd, we have, just like we always have, it's by invitation. We have the 4 schools at Bowles, Eureka, Ellisville, and Westridge. One thing that we've added here, we talked a little bit about in the previous conversation, is we have to make up some gaps with our kids. We have to be focused on that. And so from July 12th through August 6th, we will offer skill-based enrichment online for all students. And we're hoping that that is a time where the majority of our students take this as an opportunity to engage in some online skills that will help them over the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. Middle school, June 2nd through July 2nd, again, by invitation only. That's at Crestview and Rockwood Summit. And then they will do ramp up math courses online. July 12th through August 6th will be a skill-based enrichment as well for middle school. And then you see their high school, same dates for June 7th through July 2nd. And then July 12th and 9th will be also online credit recovery, first-time credit. We will also offer community ed, adventure club, early childhood. We'll have the same. Those are the dates there. Our community ed will be at all of the buildings, and adventure club will have in 5 different elementary sites and offer that as well. I think some of the bullet points here, just a reminder, the dates are set. The schools are ready. We're looking forward to that. The budget is, we usually compare last year to this year and what our expenditures were. That was based on an in-seat attendance. We didn't have in-seat. We used Springfield Launch, so it looks very different. I will say that we do have to evaluate the financial impact. We have to look at our salaries of teachers for in-seat and virtual offerings, and we have to attract and retain staff. We did notice that the Springfield Launch was different pay than what we are used to. So we have meetings with HR and finance to take a look at what does Rockwood look like this summer for salaries for teachers. So we're going to continue that conversation. And then I think we just have to be flexible because as we finalize this summer, we know that things could change. And so we're ready to pivot. And I think we're planning for what the dates are up here, but we also know that we could have to change on a dime. So any questions about summer school?
Are we still using Springfield Launch this year?
For elementary, no, we're not.
We're doing our own, right?
Right.
Okay. Second thing, elementary and middle, you had invitation only. What does that mean?
So the bottom 20, well, because it's remedial in the ELA and math, those that test at a certain score are invited for remediation for ELA math. And so it's usually the bottom 25%.
There's no other enrichment courses for elementary and middle?
Not during June, not for the in-person. It's always been that way, where those 4 weeks are the remediation piece. This is the first year we'll actually offer the enrichment.
Okay.
So for elementary schools, for example, we hire about as many staff that apply. So if we don't have the staffing for both enrichment and remedial running at the same time concurrently, and that's why we added it in July.
The last question was, on the high school, I remember the most popular course used to be PE. I didn't see that on there. Do you offer PE in the summertime? Is it still the most popular one?
For PE health, there's a limited number of courses that we offer. Personal finance, those seem to be the big draw for high school, but we'll evaluate that and look at it too. I have Glenn pulling enrollment data right now so we can kind of look at what that has been. So we're also going to be looking at data from our STAR testing that will happen in January to be able to determine what the content of those middle school and elementary enrichment courses should be. And our goal is to make those project-based learning so that our kids are getting out and about and doing things, not on the screen all day, but they're practicing those skills that we find we may have some unfinished learning in.
Will you still offer driver's ed in the summer?
I don't know that they've offered driver's ed much in the summer anymore.
I didn't know either. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
ESY, extended school year to meet students' IP needs. Will that be during the June 7th to July 2nd time period for the most part? I mean, I know it's individual and it can go blah, 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 but for the most part, that's your parameters.
Special school district has expanded their offerings over the summer too. They're going to have quite a bit offered to our students with IEPs that was not available before. So we're excited about that too.
None of the community ed are credit based, are they? They're strictly enjoyment. I shouldn't say, well, whatever you call it. Okay.
I know there's hope for, the vaccine and all these things coming. Are you having conversations yet, even about whether or not, by invitation, if there's a percentage that are saying we are still only comfortable virtually, how that looks? I mean, just. Yeah.
Because we've learned since last March that things change from what you say one day to the next, and so we have to be flexible in that, and that's just our approach, because we know that the bottom 20 may not be comfortable at that time, right, and they may, but we need to be able to pivot on that.
You'll start hiring teachers as the enrollment comes in. Is that the way that goes?
So I think it's February-ish or March or something. We start with the administrators and the program directors, and then we get down to the teacher level.
Have you hired any of those yet?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The motion is to approve the Rockwood Summer Academy report and financial analysis for 2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Janet, I'm starting to focus, so. All right, next is a motion to approve the COVID-19 leave policy as presented.
So move.
Motion is second. All right, Dr. Rebele, you're up.
So good evening. As you guys can see and know, Congress is working on a COVID relief bill as we speak. I just looked at my news scroller and they have yet to come to a decision on the relief bill. So I'm bringing this forward to you tonight, knowing that if there's a relief bill that extends FFCRA, of course, we're going to follow the federal law. But as you're aware, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, mandated that employers provided paid sick leave to their employees. That was approved by Congress and set into law to expire. It's always expired December 31st, 2020, which is just a few short days from now. Who would have thought? We believe that we need to support our employees through this pandemic and allow some additional paid sick leave in the event that the federal law does actually expire. So we're bringing forward this COVID sick leave policy, which is for third quarter. It really follows the outline governed by FFCRA, but it does provide paid sick leave to our employees for COVID-related illnesses. And I really just think that it shows the proactive, caring, supportive employer that the Rockwood School District is, that we're planning ahead and hoping that people don't get sick with COVID or have to quarantine because of COVID. But if they do, we want to be able to support our employees. So you can see what we're asking to have you approve.
Katie, that December 31st is coming up quick, you said. Are we have any fears that they may not extend that? Or they'll do it for next year?
Probably not. I mean, I don't know what's in the package. You could probably turn the news on and hear different conversations. We're not planning on FFCRA, the mandated sick leave, being extended. It could be, but in the event that it isn't, we have requested this paid sick leave process.
And that's done through the governor or through the federal government?
FFCRA is a federal law.
I'm sorry.
It's a federal law.
Okay.
This is consistent with that?
Yeah, you know, we made some changes. We, again, being the kind, supportive, caring school district that we are, doubled what the federal law mandated. The federal law mandated 10 days of paid sick leave. We doubled it last spring to 20 because we knew that a quarantine or an illness really does take some additional time. So we would like to continue the 20 if we can contact trace your exposure to the Rockwood School District because you were in a classroom or you were exposed by another employee or by a student. And then, of course, limit the 10 days to follow what the federal law had if you're exposed outside of work, which we have a robust contact tracing methodology that, you know, if you're quarantining, you have to be exposed to somebody who's positive. Who is that person? Well, if it's your husband, you probably didn't get it at work. But we also did include one other change, that we are requiring the employee to use 2 of their accrued sick days prior to kicking in 20 days, the sick leave. We believe and followed MSBA's advice, some guidance that the employee does have to have some time of their own. And I want to remind you that we provide staff paid sick days in addition to this. We provide teachers 10 sick days and 2 personal days annually. So really, if you think about it, we're giving them 32 days of paid leave.
Katie, is that per occurrence or total? Because let's say, for instance, somebody gets COVID, test positive, they come back and like a month later, they test positive again. All right. So, I mean, is it going to be total 20 days or is it 20 days per occurrence?
A great question. It's accumulated, and it's, if we scroll down a little, it's any, says it right there. It's accumulated no more than 20 days of this leave under the district's prior coronavirus sick leave and family leave policy. So great question. Because we do have staff who have already exhausted their 20 days this, you know, September, October, November. The clock doesn't start over January 1st. It's just extending it for those who haven't used that entitlement yet.
Have any facts and figures on how many people have used this policy this year?
Yeah, I do. I don't have them with me, but I can definitely get that to you. A good number. It's a very supportive of our. Now, I want to remind you that we didn't have high school wasn't in session until November 12th. Middle schools weren't in session until November 5th. Don't quote me on the dates, but I think that's right. And elementary was September 30th. I got that one down. But so when you think about it, when all students were virtual and so were teachers, there was not very likely that we would be having to quarantine or have positives.
You can't determine if somebody contracted it from one place or the other. There's just, I have no idea how I got this. They fall under the 10?
Well, they have no idea how they tested positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we of course are going to lean on the side of the 20. We would be, yeah, we again, I think that I'm going to say, I think the Rockwood School District has gone above and beyond for staff and continues to go above and beyond in this very difficult pandemic. But of course, we would lean actually on the 20 days more likely. But our contact tracing is, I mean, when you have to quarantine or you have a positive case, it's likely that we trace back. And the Department of Health helps us with that too.
Classroom teacher, though, you could go through this 2 or 3 times.
Oh, that's an interesting one. As a classroom teacher, you're probably not using any of this. You're teaching from home, and none of it, you don't qualify for any of it. You're lucky you. We're even kinder to teachers in the sense that if a teacher is quarantining and not ill, of course, if somebody's ill, we want them to rest, recover, and stay home. But if they're quarantining, then they teach from home, and none of this kicks in.
Who stays in the classroom while the teacher's quarantined at home?
A substitute teacher.
Good to know.
I think Jamie or somebody asked this, do you have a way of knowing when someone's quarantined, whether they got it at school or somewhere else?
If you're quarantining, you can't just say, I need to quarantine. You have to be for
All
a
right, I'm
reason. It has to be a
sorry.
positive.
If someone has test positive for COVID-19, can you determine where it happened at?
Department of Health really requires you to through contact tracing. So sometimes it's difficult, but the vast majority, your exposure, who you were exposed to. Tom and I, sat within 6 feet each of other. Tom tested positive and then I test positive. It's most likely that that's the transmission.
Are you finding a lot of it's happening in school or outside of school?
It really depends on the case.
Okay, I just want to clarify. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. I'm a third grade teacher, and I've been told I need to quarantine for 14 days. I am required to teach from home for those 14 days.
You're not required. You work with your principal, and typically the teacher wants to work from home for it's actually 10 school days because there's weekends in there.
Yeah.
So for those 10 days, the teacher would like to work from home typically, but the teacher and the principal work collaboratively. And there are some positions that can't work from home. Counselors, social workers, assistant principals can't really do any of the essential functions of the job. But as a classroom teacher, a third grade teacher can work with their principal. And my child, his teacher, we had a sub in the classroom and she was on the smart board and taught for the 10 days that she was quarantining.
No, it makes sense. But if you're a counselor, so you don't use this, because if you can't do it at home, you go to this?
So FFCRA applies for the majority of our staff. And remember, I like to remind people of this. We have 1,600 teachers in the Rockwood School District, but we have 4,000 employees. So the majority of our employees are not teachers.
If we make a mistake on this, are we held harmless? If we make an honest mistake and say, oh, you've used your 20 and they've only used 15, or do we make mistakes like that? We hope we don't. Are we held harmless?
I don't know. I'm not sure what I understand the question. I mean,
If we get sued, my teacher says, hey, you didn't follow the policy, we held harmless?
I hope not. I'm
You haven't had that happen?
No, we haven't had that happen.
Don't worry about it.
Again, I do want to keep saying, because I think it's really important. I think we go above and beyond as a school district. I think we're super generous in our time off. Again, the federal law that has been in effect since the spring that expires on December 31st was 10 days of sick leave, and we doubled that from the beginning. So I do think it's, and then in addition, we give paid sick time.
Above and beyond, is that unique to us, or there's?
It is unique to us. All of my HR friends love to give me trouble about the 20 days that we provide, because there's other school districts in the region, in the area, don't give the 20, they give the 10, and they hear, well, the Rockwood School District is doing it. So
Okay.
The 20 days is actually 4 school weeks.
correct. Yeah. It's a month.
You have a
Month of
question.
school.
It's on the first page. Could you clarify, it's the statement about substitutes and coaches are eligible for leave under Section A, but I didn't understand the second part about Section B.
So Section B, if a substitute or a coach that just coaches for us, isn't a teacher for us, which is common too, if they are exposed outside the school day, our coaches and
They're
our
under
subs
B.
don't get sick leave, so they wouldn't be eligible for it. But of course, if a substitute teacher is exposed during the course of their employment in Rockwood in a classroom, or a coach who only coaches for us, the team that they're coaching, we're going to extend this to them, which again is a very generous gift and
Make
goes
sure I
above and
understood
beyond.
that part for substitute and coaches. Thank you.
If they're exposed outside the school day, then the way substitutes work, we don't pay them a set amount. They pay on base that their work.
Dr. Kinder, I'll come back to a question you asked about exposure in the larger community or in the schools. Schools are the safest places to be. As we look at our continuing reports and numbers, we're trending very favorably. So the pediatricians with whom we've worked, the pediatric infectious disease specialists continue to encourage us to keep schools open and to remind us that schools are the safest places to be.
Good, that's what I was trying to get at, but I didn't say it as well as you did. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Anything else? All right. So the motion is to approve the COVID-19 leave policy as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you, Katie. All right, next, I need a motion to approve revisions to policy 1410, tobacco-free district, policy 4872, smoking on school premises by staff members, policy 1320, non-discrimination on the basis of sex, policy 2130, harassment, policy 2160, interview, interrogations, and removal from school, and policy 4810, sexual harassment.
Move.
Motion and a second. So Dr. Mark Miles is going to take care of this one with Janet Sadowski.
Yeah, so each year, Lashley and Bear, our legal counselors, take a look at updated court decisions, updated legislation. The updates to these policies you see before you this evening have been redlined, and they're due to those new legal requirements, federal regulations, and court decisions. So as a result, we're asking the board to forego the standard PIN first reading and second reading and approve these revisions this evening as the final reading so that we are consistent with law and consistent with any updated legislation.
Did I read that right on the tobacco, that most of that was the addition of vaping?
That's correct.
Now, is that students or teachers or employees? The tobacco, and that's students, isn't it?
This, I think we are a vaping and tobacco-free district, so it would really apply to both.
Everybody, okay.
Even us.
Just so people are wondering, I read a lot of these policies. They're all listed on board docs under, every one of these are listed with an explanation with everything that you're talking about, with everything marked in red. So I just, for those people who are like, I don't even know what they're talking about, everything is all laid out there. So any other questions or comments?
Also like the one on 2160, interview, interrogations, and removal from school. That's a great policy, but I think we were already doing that anyhow. We've been doing that for years. There may have been something I missed.
It simply outlines the process by which a law enforcement officer would be able to interview one of our students. We've always been very open with our parents and have attempted to contact them. This outlines the process for any time a law enforcement officer would have the desire to or need to interview one of our students. It specifies that specifically within our policy.
We've always contacted the parents, tried to contact the parents, right?
It's my understanding.
And if we can't, then the principal can act as in
loco parentis.
Yeah,
yes.
whatever you said. Yeah, in loco parentis, yes.
Yes.
Anything else? All right, so that motion is to approve revisions to policy 1410, 4872, 1320, 2130, 2160, and 4810. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next we have a motion to approve the review of policy 1450, parent family involvement in education.
Move.
We have motion is second. So Dr. Miles again.
We have a systematic process for reviewing our policies each year, and I won't get into the specifics because that's what the PIN is for, is to examine this policy, but we would simply request the board's approval to examine this policy as we think we have some outdated language.
It hasn't been done yet, right?
It has not been done yet. That's
we have to approve it, then it's
That is correct.
So that motion is to approve the review of policy 1415. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next, I need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted.
So move.
Motion is second. Hello, Chris Friend.
Evening, everyone. I have a couple items up for approval this evening. Both are construction projects funded by Bond Issue 17. The first is at Baldwin Elementary and Rockwood Summit High School. We're going to be doing some foundation waterproofing at both of those locations to address some ongoing water infiltration issues we've had. So this will include the excavation of the foundation, waterproofing the actual foundation wall, and the installation of some drain tile along both locations.
Chris, are we getting water in those places?
A couple of the classrooms at Baldwin Elementary do get water in during heavy rains. And
Okay,
then
as I look at Baldwin, where's it at? Backside?
exact front of the building,
What, the front of the building?
right smack in front of the building. Yep.
That is the original, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yep.
What about Summit?
Rockwood Summit, we have some water infiltration that's happening between the early childhood playground and the lower level of the 2-story curriculum wing.
In the backside?
Yes, I guess it's 3-story if you counted the lower level. Yes. So it'll actually require us to excavate some of the actual playground area to get to where we need to get.
We lose that playground area then, or will it go back after?
Temporarily, we'll use
I mean,
the,
we will eventually be able to recoup it though.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It's not like they're losing part of their playground. Okay.
Correct.
Just
How long
temporarily.
do you anticipate it'll take?
About a month.
Okay. So that motion is to approve the bond issue purchases, $7,500 to $150,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, now we have two. So the first is a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Haberberger Mechanical for removal and replacement of HVAC units.
Move.
Motion is second. Go ahead.
So several meetings ago, we brought the design contract for the replacement of the pool HVAC unit at Eureka High School. It's a unit that has definitely run its life cycle and it's in need of replacement. So you guys approved the design for this project several meetings ago, and this is the actual construction contract to have that unit replaced. For Haberberger Mechanical, $326,700.
That on the roof?
It is not. It's actually on a slab outside of the pool facility. It's on the ground
In front or behind?
behind.
Football
So
field?
basically between the stadium field and the pool
Oh,
facility.
okay. Tom, did you know that?
Okay, so that motion is to approve the bond issue purchases for Haberberger. You said it so easily. Mechanical. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. The next one is a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Worldwide Technology, Inc. for replacement of server and storage environment.
We'll move.
Motion is second. Deb Kettering?
We've outgrown our current environment, or will be doing so very soon. This is part of just our standard refresh process, and it will allow us to expand some things. It will allow us to support our new Business Plus environment that will be implemented next year, that we're working with HR and finance on. And so it's just going to help us continue, and we expect it to last 5 years.
It's the main data center at Babler?
It is
Where's the backup site?
Crestview.
Can we take the existing one and resell it?
And resell it.
Yeah.
We actually have a meeting with Paul Northington and Brenda Kirkhofer next week to discuss that. So,
Or
yes.
try to sell it?
We're going to look at our options.
Okay. It's not, it hasn't gone bad, it's just we don't have enough capacity with those, is that right?
Correct. It's 5 years old. It's going to be end of support soon, and we need to improve our infrastructure so that we can keep up with the processing and the storage needs that the district has. All of the data that you all are asking about is stored on those servers and in that environment, and we really find that, we need to have faster, more robust storage and servers.
These aren't add-ons
handle
to the
that.
these aren't add-ons to the existing one. They're newer ones, larger size.
This will be newer, new and replacing what we have.
Else?
Any?
All right, so that motion is to approve the bond issue purchases for Worldwide Technology. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you. You're lucky, Dr. Kinder, didn't make a motion for you to buy the server.
If it's under $5, I'll do it.
He has a key lime pie there. He'd give you for it. All right. Next is a COPE update, Communications Outreach and Public Engagement Committee update. Jamie Bays, Lynn Midyett, and Randall Miller. Fire away.
So thank you all for your feedback, for the letters that we emailed out to you. In our wrap-up conversations, Lynn had put together those great flowcharts that you guys all saw. We have kind of come to the conclusion through working through all of that and then working through some specific email responses to emails we've received that we do in fact need the third letter. So we modified some of the other letters to just keep it short, but just an acknowledgement really of almost any communication that we receive, no matter who's copied on that. And it's also a little bit more staff appropriate, whereas the, I think the letter, I don't remember if it's A or B, was really more parent appropriate. So we'll send the third letter out for you all to look at.
And send them all again. So
Yep.
we've got a clean slate of
Yep.
what is,
Yep.
what we're really using.
Yep,
Thanks.
we can send all of it along with the flow charts to you guys to look at. So we don't really have, I don't think, any additional updates tonight unless you guys have any questions of us.
Oh, you know when this will go into effect? Or is it already in effect?
We haven't replied with anything yet, so the three of us just need to work out what our schedule will be for the replying process, and then I think beyond that, it can start right away. We have a few earmarked that we're going to go back and reply to specific ones that we received like this week, earlier this week, maybe end of last week. There might have been one or two. So we're going to start that process with those and move forward.
These are really good. Notice we got one this last week that was addressed to each of us individually, but it went to everybody. And that's tricky sometimes.
That is the most complicated one to figure out. And so we have developed what we hope is going to work for that, but we recognize that no matter what we put down on paper at this point, just like everything else in 2020 is going to just keep evolving. As we, receive something, we're probably going to need to tweak and make some adjustments to our letters and processes and see how that goes. There's a potential because there are people that either blind copy or, maybe they're accessing our emails via the website. And so they're just clicking down our names to email us that way rather than composing, and copying and pasting. If that's the case, there's a chance that with, the way we've laid this out, they might get 8 replies and 7 of them might be the exact same reply from each of us stating that they'll receive a COPE reply. And then the 8th reply would be the COPE reply. So there's a chance that that would happen, but we feel like if somebody is emailing and contacting us all that way, that's their choice. And so the result will end up probably with potentially 8 responses.
Am I right to assume that if we get one that's addressed to us, even if we know the person or don't know the person, would it be fair to assume that they've sent it to everybody?
Not necessarily. Laura Lee and I have talked this week. In fact, it's pretty simple at times. If I've gotten something that I think that someone else has, I might just say, text Randy, hey, did you get this? If Randy's gotten it and it's not somebody I'm personally connected to, then I'm assuming that that's something that we probably all got. The flip side of that is there are people that contact probably all of us at times because we do have a personal connection. And so one piece of this that is an important piece we don't want to lose by just developing a process is a relationship that we may have with someone. So, we still want, if you have a personal relationship with somebody, obviously we want to, bring everybody up to speed on parts of this, but at the same time, it may not be appropriate to have a standard COPE response to that person. So again, there is not, an A, B, and C that's going to fit every scenario of the communication we receive. And we're just going to have to give it a go and see what changes we need to make as we do it.
You guys have done a great job on it, and I'm sure I'll be the first one to mess it up. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm used to that.
With the process flows, we actually kept narrowing it and looking at it. And that's the advantage of doing that, going through that process to get a process. And so we'll send that out to you so you can take a look at that again. I think it's in the folder, but I don't know if everyone has looked at the final piece. Again, it's a work in progress. We'll always continue to improve it with your feedback.
I want to make sure the same message is getting out to the community, and that once isn't going to be enough for communications to get that this is how it's being handled, because I don't want the community to come back and say they don't care, we're just getting a form letter. There's a process and there's some reasons why the process is in place, which we all agree to. I just want to make sure that we are communicating out to the community.
I think that we totally agree with that statement. And one thing that we continue to come back to as well in our conversations and looking at the flow chart is that, majority of the time we may receive an email from somebody. I think as we went back and really kind of cataloged some of our emails over the past few months, really more often than not, Dr. Miles and or a cabinet person, somebody else has been copied on an email we received. That's really the most common scenario. And in those scenarios, we feel like we can mostly infer that they're including us on that, just sort of as we just want you to be aware of this, because the majority of the time, the seven of us are not the people putting in the time outside of these meetings, doing the work and coming up with the plans and coming up with the schedule for high school or middle school, or whatever the email is directed towards. And so Dr. Miles, we've spoken with him and Janet, and they're coming up with, good ways, and have previously, to make sure that when he sees something, just like I think today we had one, he said, look, this is really a curriculum specific thing. So Dr. Willett is gonna respond to this. And we just want to make sure that the person still knows that we've received this, we acknowledge it, and we hear you, but these are the people that can really answer your questions best, because it's really not us.
I totally agree. General public.
Yep. Yeah.
You're going to put something out on the website that responses to emails will be generally handled through the code committee or something to that effect?
Probably. I mean, the bottom of our responses, it lists COPE committee, and then it links people back to the website. And I know Kathy had come up with some verbiage to change on the side of the board's page. And so she was going to work on that. And then we will probably make some adjustments even to just the COPE page, so that people have an understanding of those things too. So I can't iterate enough that really is excellent work you guys have done on this. Thank you.
I mean, I've said it how many times. I appreciate it too, because I don't think these responses should be solely coming from the president of the board. I mean, I know I'm the leader here, but I appreciate what you have done, because I know I sat in an hour's worth of the flow charts, and it's amazing. So thank you very much for that. Anything else? Are you guys good?
Unless you guys have anything.
Okay. Proposed agenda for January 21, 2021 Board of Education meeting. It's kind of catchy. 1/20/2021. 1/21.
Am I to assume, right, we're not doing board awards anymore until we get back to full time without COVID?
This actual
This is a
January
board.
meeting is a virtual
Okay.
award. This meeting in January is going to be a virtual award night.
Really? I thought the one tonight was supposed to be.
Originally, the beginning of December, that meeting was supposed to be
Yeah,
in person, but this in January is when we're going to be doing the virtual.
That'll be virtual, the one in January.
Yes. So you
The
can
RAP
see
committee,
it.
the RAP committee's worked very hard to work that out.
Is it just the board awards will be virtual and will be on?
Yeah, see, this meeting is going to be at 7:00. The awards are going to be held via Zoom. So.
We got open session, okay.
Mhm.
So will we be here by
The whole
7
evening will
o'clock?
be virtual, correct? The whole evening will be virtual? No.
No. It's
Gotcha.
just going to be the way it was talked about, and they're working through all the details, is they're going to have like the principals or whoever's awarding, and then they'll have all the kids from that school on Zoom, and the principal will be here in person and will run through their students, and then they'll move on to the next school with another set of Zoom and do it that way to get through, because we haven't had an awards night since we didn't have last March, so it's probably been
I don't remember.
before that.
December.
It's been a year.
You have, one group's presenting, the next group, they're not on Zoom yet until the other group is finished. Is that right? So you don't get them mixed up?
Something like that. They're working through all, they're going to first see how many awards there are and how they're broken down by which schools. But that's the way I understand it, that we're going to have like the principals or whoever the award presenter is be here physically, and then all the winners will be virtual.
We'll be here for the virtual and both, okay?
Yep.
Okay. Future agenda presentations and events to attend. The next board meeting would be one.
Yep.
And board awards.
Yep.
Anything else? All right. Hope you guys all have a really great break. And we're going to see you next year, 2021, right? All right. Adjourn the meeting. Mrs. Bays would like our picture with the RGB heart.
Can we dress up? We dress up for the next meeting?
I would say, right? Why not?
Oh.